We often talk about the huge players in the chemical world, right? But sometimes the really fascinating stuff, the rapid growth, is happening in markets that seem a bit more niche,
Exactly.
like succinic acid. Probably not a household name, but the way its market is projected to grow, well, that's grabbing attention.
Succinic acid, yeah, it's a really interesting molecule. It's found naturally in pretty much all living things, plants, animals, even microbes. Chemically, it's a dicarboxylic acid,
Meaning?
meaning it has these two reactive points, which makes it super versatile for linking up with other molecules. Think of it like a fundamental building block.
A building block.
Hmm.
Okay. And it seems like this building block is about to become much more popular. We're looking at the Global Succinic Acid Market Report 2025 today.
Right.
And we're going to dig into this report, really understand what's happening in the global market right now, and crucially, where it seems to be heading.
Yeah, our goal here is to pull out the key takeaways for you from this report, give you a clear picture of the succinic acid market today, what the forecasts look like, and which industries and regions are really driving things.
Okay, so let's start with the headline numbers. For 2025, the global market is estimated at what? USD 272.84 million?
That's the figure. A decent size, sure.
Yeah.
But the really interesting part is the forecast.
Yeah.
The report projects it reaching USD 593.418 million by 2033.
Wow, okay. That's more than double.
It is. It translates to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 10.20% between 2025 and 2033.
10.2%. That's a pretty robust growth for a chemical like this, isn't it? Suggests some big shifts are underway.
Definitely. And the report pins a lot of that on one major factor, the growing global demand for renewable resources.
Ah, the sustainability push. Makes sense. So the drive for greener chemistry is really boosting succinic acid.
Precisely. And the report helps us understand this better by breaking the market down. First, by type, is it bio-based, from renewables, or petrol-based, from fossil fuels?
Right.
And second, by application, where is it actually being used across different industries? We need to look at both.
And geography, of course. We need to see where in the world this growth is concentrated and which industries are the main users. So, let's unpack the timeline first. How does the report structure its analysis?
Okay, so the report uses 2024 as the base year for its calculations. It looks back at historical data from 2021 to 2024.
Okay.
2025 is the estimated year, the starting point for the forecast, which then runs from 2025 all the way to 2033. So that gives us an 8-year window for that 10.2% CGR projection.
Got it. An 8-year forecast. So, regional breakdown, where's the biggest demand right now? It sounds like North America is leading the pack.
That's right. For 2025, North America is estimated to hold the largest slice, actually over 40% of the global market. That's about USD 68.21 million.
Over 40%. Okay, and it's growth.
Projected CGR is a healthy 8.3% through to 2033. Still pretty strong.
So what's keeping North America at the forefront? What are the drivers there?
Well, the report points to two main things. One, there's a growing preference for using biological substitutes, bio-based chemicals.
Right.
And two, you have pretty strict environmental regulations in place, which naturally favor more sustainable options like biosuccinic acid. So it's a mix of market pull and regulatory push.
Okay. And within North America is mainly the U.S.?
Yeah, the U.S. is definitely the dominant player, estimated at about USD 53.82 million in 2025, with an 8.1% CAGR projected. Canada's next, around USD 8.19 million, but with a slightly higher projected CAGR of 9.1%. The report mentions rising awareness in their electric power sector as a factor there.
Interesting.
And Mexico's around USD 6.21 million, also at a strong CGR forecast of 8.8%. So yeah, the U.S. leads, but Canada and Mexico are showing really solid growth potential too.
Okay, North America is the current heavyweight. How does Europe fit into this picture?
Europe's the second largest. It holds over 30% of the market share in 2025, which translates to about USD 57.3 euro million.
And their growth rate?
Pretty similar to North America, actually, projected at 8.5% CAGR through 2033.
So similar drivers there as well. Sustainability focus, regulations.
Largely, yes. Increasing demand for sustainable chemicals, supportive environmental policies, that kind of thing. The report gets quite granular with European countries.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the UK, for instance, is estimated at USD 9.63 million with a strong 9.3% CAGR linked to demand for innovative tech. Germany's the largest in Europe, USD 11.34 million, 8.7% CAGR, held at its major chemical company.
Right.
Then you've got France, Italy, also significant. Russia actually has a notable market too, around USD 8.88 million, though a slightly lower TGR of 7.5%. And then Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg. They all contribute. It's a broad base.
Okay, that paints a good picture of Europe. Now, Asia Pacific, I always feel like that's where the big growth stories are these days.
You're absolutely right to think that APAC held around 23% of the market in 2025,
Mm.
about USD 120.05 million. And this is the key point, it's projected to be the fastest growing region by a significant margin,
How fast?
an impressive CAGR of 11.8% between 2025 and 2033.
Wow, 11.8%. That's substantially higher than North America and Europe. What's fueling that kind of acceleration in APAC?
It seems to be a combination of factors. The report mentions strong government support for industrial sectors across many APAC countries.
Okay.
There's also the factor of readily available labor, and importantly, increasing interest from Western companies looking to invest or set up shop in these high-growth markets.
Yeah.
It's creating a really dynamic environment.
Makes sense. And which countries are the main engines within APAC? China, I assume.
China is definitely the biggest, yeah.
Mm.
About USD 50.42 million in 2025,
Yeah.
and a very strong 11.3% CAGR projected, driven by manufacturers focusing more there.
Right.
Japan's next at USD 16.57 million, 10.3% CAGR. South Korea, around USD 14.41 million, 10.9% CAGR. And India stands out.
Oh, yeah.
Only USD 12 million in 2025, but an exceptional projected CAGR of 13.7%.
13.7. Okay, India's one to watch closely then.
Absolutely. And you also have strong growth in Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, and the Southeast Asia region as a whole. It's really a powerhouse for future growth.
Clearly, APAC is where a lot of the future expansion is happening. What about the other regions mentioned in the report? South America, Middle East, Africa, are they significant?
They're smaller in terms of current market share, but definitely showing strong growth potential. South America had just over 5% share in 2025, so about USD 10.37 million. But its projected CAGR is 10.6%.
Also, double-digit growth.
Yeah, exactly. Brazil and Argentina are leading there, with KGRs over 11%. Brazil's growth is linked to demand for energy-efficient sources. Argentina's partly to rising disposable income.
Interesting drivers.
The Middle East held around 2% share, roughly USD 10.91 million, with a projected GGR of 10.7%. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are the key markets.
Okay.
And Africa is the smallest currently, but 1% share, USD 6.00, but still projected at a 9.9% CAGR.
Yep.
South Africa is the main market there. So while smaller overall, these regions are definitely part of the growth story too.
So the takeaway is North America leads now, but the big momentum, the fastest growth, is undeniably in Asia Pacific, with South America and the Middle East also showing very strong potential.
That sums it up nicely.
Okay, let's pivot now. Let's look at the type of succinic acid. You mentioned bio-based versus petrol-based. How does the market break down there?
Right. So you've got bio-based, made from things like corn or sugarcane, and petrol-based, derived from fossil fuels. The report suggests that bio-based succinic acid is likely to become the dominant type in terms of market share over the forecast period.
Which makes sense given everything we've discussed about sustainability and regulations.
Right.
What's driving that expected dominance for bio-based?
Well, it's exactly that. Rising demand for eco-friendly chemicals, the global push to cut carbon emissions, stricter environmental rules, it all favors bio-based.
Right.
Plus, and this is important, technology is catching up. Advances in biotechnology, fermentation processes, they're making bio-based production more efficient and, crucially, more cost-effective than it used to be.
Ah, the cost factor. That's key. But, hang on, the report also says petrol-based is the fastest growing segment by type. How does that square with bio-based becoming dominant?
Yeah, that's a really important nuance. So while bio-based is expected to grab the larger overall share of the pie,
Okay.
petrol-based is seeing faster growth in certain specific applications. The report highlights its increasing use in making polyesters, where it's replacing adipic acid.
Ah, okay. A specific industrial substitution.
Exactly. And there's also still steady demand for the petrol-based version from the food, beverage, and hygiene industries. So its rate of growth is faster, even if its overall volume might eventually be overtaken by bio-based. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So faster growth rate in specific areas versus larger overall expected share for bio-based.
Got it. Okay, now let's look at applications. Where is all this succinic acid actually going? What's it used for?
The report breaks down several key application areas, and perhaps surprisingly, the largest market share currently belongs to cosmetics.
Cosmetics. Really? I wouldn't have guessed that. Why cosmetics? Yeah, it seems its properties are valuable there. It's driven by the growing demand for anti-aging products, general beauty enhancers. Plus, consumers are getting more knowledgeable about ingredients.
Right, the clean beauty trend.
Exactly. And there's a preference for natural, organic options, which fits well with bio-based succinic acid. The report also mentions the growing men's skincare market as a contributing factor.
Fascinating. Cosmetics leading the charge. What other big applications are there?
The pharmaceutical sector is another major one, and it's growing rapidly.
Okay, that seems more intuitive. How is it used in pharma?
Two main ways. As an excipient, basically an inactive ingredient that helps deliver the active drug.
Like a binder or filler?
Sort of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Helps with the formulation. And it's also used in the actual synthesis of some active pharmaceutical ingredients, the APIs.
Ah, okay.
And the growth here is driven by, well, the rising prevalence of chronic diseases globally and the constant need for new and effective drugs. Plus, the pharma sector itself is expanding, especially in emerging economies.
So beauty and health are major consumers. What about more traditional industrial uses? You mentioned it's a building block.
Absolutely. While cosmetics and pharma might lead in current share or growth in certain segments, it has a wide range of industrial uses too. It's used to make 1004-butanediol, or BDO, which is a major industrial chemical.
Right.
It's used to make PBS polybutylene succinate, which is a type of biodegradable plastic.
Ah, biodegradable plastics, another link to sustainability.
Exactly. And then you have resins, coatings, dyes, inks, polyurethanes, plasticizers, solvents, lubricants. Even things like de-icing solutions. It really pops up in a lot of places.
It's incredibly versatile. Okay, so the report also looks at this by end-use industry, right? How is that different from application?
It's a slightly different lens.
Yeah.
Application is what the succinic acid is doing, like being an acidity regulator or part of a cosmetic formula. End-use industry is which sector is ultimately using it in its final products or processes.
Got it. So which end-use industry has the biggest share?
According to the report, the food and beverage industry currently holds the largest share from an end-use perspective,
Okay, and what's its role there, mainly?
primarily as an acidity controller and a flavor enhancer. Think processed foods, drinks. The demand there is growing. And again, the trend towards organic or clearly labeled ingredients benefits succinic acid's use here too.
Makes sense. And which end-use industry is flagged as growing fastest? Is it cosmetics again?
Yes, interestingly, the cosmetics and personal care end-use industry is highlighted for rapid growth. It mirrors what we saw in the application segment. It's all about that demand for natural, sustainable beauty products, hygiene trends, appearance consciousness.
Right.
The pharmaceutical end-use industry is also naturally a very significant and growing sector, just like we saw on the application side.
So it seems like consumer trends in beauty and food, alongside the essential needs of the pharma industry, are really shaping the demand landscape. Yeah, let's consolidate this. What are the main forces, the key drivers, pushing this whole market forward?
Okay, the report really emphasizes a few core drivers. Number one, as we've touched on a lot, is that growing interest in natural or bio-based succinic acid.
Driven by...
Driven by stricter rules around petrochemicals, sure, but also just growing environmental awareness among both consumers and manufacturers. The report mentions that BASF and Brigadi Initiative for Biodegradable Sportswear using castor beans as a good example of this in action.
Yeah, that's a tangible example. What else is driving growth?
Technology.
Yeah.
Big time. Advances in manufacturing, particularly in fermentation using renewable feedstocks like sugarcane or grain, are making bio-based production cheaper and more scalable.
Right.
And better purification methods also help make it more economically competitive against the petrol-based version.
So it's not just desire, it's feasibility improving too. Any other major drivers?
Yes, the expanding use in medicine and pharmaceuticals, both as those excipients and in API synthesis, that's a huge factor, linked to rising chronic illness rates and the need for effective drugs. And finally, the growth in the food and beverage sector, using it for flavor and acidity control, driven by convenience foods, but also that demand for more natural or organic ingredients.
So it's like a perfect storm. Environmental push, tech enabling it, and growing needs in key sectors like pharma and food. Are there any roadblocks, though? Any restraints mentioned?
Yes, there are challenges. A big one is still the manufacturing cost. Bio-based succinic acid can still be more expensive to produce than the petrol-based version.
Why is that?
Well, the purification process can be costly. You need specialized bioreactors for the fermentation, specific microbial strains. It adds up.
Right, the initial investment and complexity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another potential restraint mentioned is simply a lack of awareness in some sectors about succinic acid's benefits and potential uses. It's not universally known yet.
Cost and awareness. Common hurdles for emerging bio-based materials. Hopefully, ongoing tech improvements help with the cost side. What about overall market trends? Did they just mirror the drivers?
Pretty much, yeah. The report highlights the increasing use in medicine and pharma as a key ongoing trend, and also the continued development and growth within the food and beverage industries. These seem to be the dominant directions.
Okay, reinforces the main growth areas. Now, competition. Who are the main companies playing in this space?
The report names several key players. It's a mix, really. You've
Eh.
got big chemical giants like BASF, SE, Dow Chemicals, Mitsubishi Chemical Corporation,
Mm.
and then some others like GC Innovation America, Parcom, Ernesto Ventos SA, the chemical company Kawasaki Keisei Chemicals. It's not just the behemoths.
A diverse landscape. Did the report mention any recent moves by these companies? Any strategic plays?
It mentioned a couple of examples. BASF back in February 2025 started registering a new insecticide, Brexioactive, in Asia-Pacific for rice hoppers. This hints at potential uses for succinic acid derivatives in agriculture. And it also mentioned Dow collaborating with Inventure in July 2024 on waste-to-value solutions for petrochemical feedstocks. Now, that's not directly succinic acid, but it shows the broader industry trend towards circularity and sustainability, which definitely influences this market.
Good context. Okay, let's quickly revisit the regions before we wrap up, just to lock it in. North America leads now. APAC grows fastest.
That's the core story, yes. North America had the biggest share in 2025, helped by that biosubstitute uptake in environmental laws. But Asia-Pacific is projected to have the highest AGR through 2033, thanks to its industrial growth, labor availability, and attracting investment.
Crystal clear. Okay, finally, the report concludes with insights from the author, Manoj Fagar. What's his final take?
So Mr. Fagar sums up by reiterating that significant global growth, the 10.20% CAGR forecast.
Yeah.
He also makes the point that petrol-based succinic acid will likely remain significant throughout the forecast period, driven by ongoing needs in manufacturing, personal hygiene, hospitality, etc.
So not disappearing overnight despite the bio-based push.
Apparently not. And interestingly, his analysis concludes that pharmaceuticals are likely to become the largest end-user market in terms of share.
Pharmaceuticals taking the top spot, even with cosmetics and food bev being so strong now.
That's his projection, yeah. Driven primarily by those rising chronic health conditions and the constant search for better drug formulations where succinic acid plays a role.
That's a really interesting prediction. It really underscores how diverse the demand drivers are for this one chemical.
It does. It shows that while the green transition is powerful, specific industry needs and existing applications will continue to shape how the market evolves.
Okay, so let's try and summarize this deep dive. The global succinic acid market is clearly on a strong upward trajectory. Big growth ahead.
Definitely. Fueled by that demand for renewables, tech improvements making bio-based more viable, and growing use in key areas like cosmetics, pharma, and food.
And regionally, North America is the current leader, but all eyes are on Asia-Pacific for the fastest expansion.
Exactly. And we saw the dynamic between bio-based gaining overall share, while petrol-based still grows fast in specific niches, plus the different angles of applications versus end-use industries.
It really paints a picture of a market in transition, doesn't it? The growth here reflects bigger shifts towards more sustainable chemistry, impacting everything from plastics to medicine to food.
Absolutely. And it leaves you with a pretty compelling thought, doesn't it?
Which is?
Well, looking ahead, how might the next wave of biotech breakthroughs change things even further? Could they accelerate that shift to bio-based even faster? And maybe more importantly, what completely new uses for succinic acid might pop up as it becomes even greener and cheaper to make? The potential for innovation seems huge.
That is a great question to ponder. What new doors might open? Definitely food for thought. If this has sparked your interest, we absolutely encourage you to look for more detailed research on the succinic acid market. There's clearly a lot happening in this space.